Well, let's get more on the Finsbury Park attack now. We're joined by Haras Rafiq, who is the Chief Executive of counter-extremism organisation Quilliam. Thanks very much for being with us this morning. Such a dreadful 24 hours. And yesterday, the Prime Minister said that there's far too much tolerance of extremism in this country, including Islamophobia. Would you agree with those words?
I think one of the things that we've been seeing recently over the last 10 years is that the inability for civil society to deal with the Islamist threat as opposed to Islam, the Islamist threat, which is the political ideology, I think has a symbiotic relationship with anti-Muslim hatred. And I think the attack that we saw a couple of nights ago is one example of how this relationship is expanding, because we've had 3 recent Islamist terrorist attacks, and although more information will come out about Darren Osborne, what is very clear is that he was certainly anti-Muslim and wanted to kill Muslims on the night. So, and by the way, these 2 ideologies, if you like, because they are emerging ideologies, are not different. They're actually 2 sides of the same coin. As one grows, so does the other. And we've seen recently within the PREVENT strategy, which is the government strategy to counter extremism, over the last year, 1/3 of the referrals of individuals that have been referred to Channel, which is the de-radicalisation programme, have been far right. And in Wales, particularly, over the last year, nearly 50% of them have been from far right. So, yes, there is a phenomenon of anti-Muslim hatred and Islamist extremism, which are feeding off each other.
So we... As a result of that, do you think that we are putting too much effort into trying to combat Islamic extremism, and we're not putting enough effort into clamping down on far-right extremism, for example, or white supremacy?
Well, first of all, there is a far greater threat from global jihadism, if you like, from Islamist terrorism. You know, if you just look at the numbers of people that have been killed. And, by the way, the PREVENT strategy over the last year has stopped 150 people travelling to join ISIS, and that's a real terrorist threat. So I think that the threat really is proportional, and the response is proportional. There is a far greater threat from global jihadist insurgencies. However, the anti-Muslim threat is rising, and I think the strategy is changing and adopting to reflect what's going on. I remember being involved in the PREVENT strategy since its inception, and in those days it was really purely and simply to focus on Islamist extremism. Now it very much focuses on both the... I think the far right is the wrong word, I think, because there are people who perhaps will have voted Labour most of their life and are left in their politics, but on this issue they're anti-Muslim. So maybe ethno-nationalism or something else. Maybe we need to redefine the terminology that we use.
I mean, speaking to people on the ground there, you have a number of Muslims in the community now scared to walk down their own streets, and worried about what's going to happen to them. We had spoke to one woman; she's worried for her child, her son, what would happen to him. Did you see an attack like this coming? What are you hearing from other Muslims in regards to hate crimes and how they're treated in everyday life?
Well, one of the reasons I started doing this kind of work when I did, and a number of reasons, was that I had this thought that what if one day Middle England wakes up and decides today we hate Muslims? And I could see this coming, so it was very important for Muslims like me and others to be seen to be tackling the Islamist threat. And yes, there is a problem, a growing problem. I have children myself, so I'm concerned. And I think that the response we have to this has to be a combination of, yes, governmental, but also civil society tackling these ideologies. You know, Islamism is like fascism. It's a totalitarian fascist ideology. Anti-Muslim hatred is the same. They are both totalitarian ideologies. And yes, there is a fear. Of course there's a fear. I'm worried about my children. I'm sure other people are as well. But we can get through this.
It's that irony, isn't it? They're similar in certain areas, but yeah.
Yeah, it's sadly something we're going to be discussing a lot more of in coming days and weeks. Haras Rafiq from the Quilliam Foundation, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Indeed.